Hey guys, I'm back with another crappy, unscripted, behind-the-scenes video because nobody asked for it, but I wanted to do it, so there you go. And this time it's for arguably my most popular series of all time, Guessing with Plankton. Now, I started this series last February, and to say that it has blown up would be an understatement. I really cannot believe still how big this has become. I've just found out recently that there's about over 100 guessing plush videos that have been made by multiple people, which is insane. To say that I'm incredibly thankful would be an understatement. So, since then, I've had people asking me how I go about making these videos, and I've had a couple of people asking me, like, you know, if it would be alright if they would make their own versions. And obviously I'm okay with that. A lot of people have. And it got me thinking, maybe I should share how I go about making the Guessing with Plankton videos, just for people who are curious, obviously. Now, obviously, this is not meant to be a tutorial. There are different ways and different techniques about how to go about making one of these videos. And if you want to try out some of the techniques that I use for making my guessing videos, be my guest, but you don't have to do it that way. There are plenty of other ways that people have done them. You do what you're comfortable with. It's ultimately up to you. But anyways, let's get down to business. First up, we gotta choose a victim, and for the sake of this whole behind-the-scenes video, I've actually recorded the production of the Rugrats characters video, so you'll be seeing stuff from that. And usually, how it works, obviously, is that I gotta use the idiotic characters, because Plankton's whole thing is set up where if somebody guesses right, then he can conquer the world or fulfill his evil plan, and if they guess wrong, then nothing happens. And I have it set where he has to kidnap idiots because you know, he can't do it the other way around. It's a complicated thing. There are videos explaining it. The point is, why is it idiotic characters that he kidnaps? Well, it's because they're too stupid to understand his evil plans, and it opens the doors for hilarious answers. So, the idiot characters are the primary targets. I always go for them. Sometimes, however, I may have limited options, so I might end up taking a character who's a little bit dumb, or something like that, and just, you know, let it go. Or, in some cases, I'll take a character who may not be entirely dumb at all, but then add a gimmick to it, like maybe they've been drugged, or they're drunk, or something like that. For the sake of the Rugrats characters video, I did that with Tommy. He could be a little bit of an airhead on Plush Brains, but he's not the stupidest character on Plush Brains. So I had it where he was snooping around Boris's medicine cabinet, and he ate some pills, thinking they were candy. That sort of spiel, obviously. And that's screwing up with his brain and his vision, and that's what leads to what happens, obviously. So, yeah, basically the idiotic characters are the ones that I always go for. So, because, you know, like, it makes sense. It helps make the stupid answers funnier and more believable. There are some people who don't get the premise of the series and question why they're guessing it wrong. That's just gonna happen, but, again, that's not a big deal. Next up, you gotta choose a theme or a franchise for the video. Now, obviously, there's been plenty of videos I've done where I've themed it to a specific franchise or a specific company, and, you know, those are fine, but sometimes I like to do themes as well. Like storybook characters, or rodent characters, or video game characters. That helps open the doors to include characters who otherwise don't have a chance of appearing. Once I have decided on what I want the video to be about, I gotta choose the characters and how many to include. Now, obviously, first and foremost, I think of some characters and I write them down in a list, obviously. I start typing down their names one by one, and I usually go for about 50 characters. 50 is usually my limit. Sometimes there may be less if I have to remove certain characters, or if I don't have enough to work with a specific franchise or show or whatever. So far, that's only really been the case with the Toywits characters video. It also helps, whenever I do 50 characters, the video usually rounds out to about, like, 8 to 10 minutes long. It can get longer if a certain other factor comes into the cards, but we'll get to that when we do. But yeah, when I'm writing down characters, I usually like to cover all grounds in terms of the franchise. So, like, I'll try to include some of the movie characters, spin-off characters, video game characters, etc. And it also helps to include deep cut characters. That, you know, people otherwise wouldn't know. Why do I do this? Well, it's to surprise people who actually know who they are, or to just confuse people and have them be like, huh? This is a character from this franchise? For the Rugrats video, there were a couple of deep cut characters, but for the true standouts, I'd say one of them was Terrence Turtle from the Search for Reptar commercial. I still don't think he qualifies as a Nickelodeon character, but he was tied to a Rugrats thing, so screw it, I went with that. I thought it'd be funny. And then Robo Juicer from Nickelodeon Party Blast. The game doesn't really make it clear. There is like an image on like the level select, but he is supposed to be the Rugrats boss of the game, even though he is not from the show. Goes to show just how shitty Nickelodeon Party Blast as a game is, but again, that's a whole nother topic that I'm not getting into here. But yeah, deep cuts, cover all grounds, limit myself, that way the video is not bloated. That's usually my strategy. The next step of the process, once I have all of the character names written down, the characters I want to include, I gotta search for stock art, renders, and screenshots of the characters. Now, typically what I do is fan wikis. Fan wikis are like the most trustworthy. If it's on a fan wiki, then maybe I'll go for it, unless I know it's 100% fake. It's actually part of the reason why I don't tend to use Google Images, largely because of fan art and AI, of course. But, you know, if I know for a fact that a character image or stock art is official, then I'll go for it if I see it on Google Images. One other option that I sometimes use, if I have access to them, are style guide files. That's only if those get leaked online for specific franchises. I did use some for the Rugrats video, so that, there you go. Now, next up, this is not really a major step, and you don't even have to do it if you don't want to, but I always tend to spruce up the images, like, you know, get rid of the backgrounds if I really want to. I didn't do it for the storybook video because there were a lot of images that really wouldn't have worked with that, so I didn't really care. And I figured that people would eventually do their own versions, and not really care either, so there you go, I was right about that. But yeah, spruce them up, maybe clean up some edges. If there's any, like, watermarks and whatnot, I can get rid of those. And then, for characters that I take from screenshots from the shows or movies or whatnot, I tend to remove the backgrounds as well. Now, again, this is entirely optional. But by the way, if anyone's wondering what image software I use for image editing, I use GIMP. I'm too cheap for Photoshop, but GIMP is a very simple alternative to Photoshop. I've been using it for years, though. I shouldn't even say it's simple. But yeah, I've been using GIMP for years. It's done me wonders, so that's what I use. And it's worth mentioning that even though, like, I have a list of characters, it's not finalized. Characters can change at any point. I could replace characters or bring in new characters at any point during the video's production. And this has actually happened with the Rugrats video. Originally, I was going to feature Conan McNulty, who was Grandpa Lou's rival. But last minute, I realized I didn't include Cynthia. So, even though she's a doll, obviously, but I had to put Cynthia in there. And I thought, okay, Conan McNulty, I can sacrifice him. So, yeah, so there you go. That's another thing. So once I've decided which characters I'm going to use, and I've gotten all the images for them, it's time to come up with the answers. Now, the whole fate of the video depends on the answers. They can either be references, or quotes, or connections to unrelated characters, or they could just be completely random. I know that last one's a little bit risky, but it's one that I like doing. For example, for the sake of the Rugrats video, I referenced chocolate pudding with stew. Obviously, that's pretty natural. As for the amount of time it takes me to come up with answers, it might vary depending on the group of characters I have to deal with. Sometimes it might be simple and I get it done in a day. Other times I might have to come back and think about it when I get a good idea. If all else fails and I can't think of anything for a specific character, a simple I don't know works sometimes. It's important not to overuse it, though. And very much like the characters that are going to be featured in the video, answers could change at any point during development. For instance, for Howard, I was originally going to say, I don't know, but then I thought, why the heck not? Let's quote that one quote from Lou about, you know, running the sack race, not going to the moon. And yeah, there you go. Now, the next step is something that I'm sure nobody even considered me doing for these videos, and that is randomizing the list. I tend to do that way, like, everything is so random. I don't know why. I think it just helps the video, honestly. It makes everything more unpredictable. I use a website called random.org to randomize the order of the list, and then I randomize it a couple of times until I find an order that suits me the best, or I think works the best, and then I might tweak characters, like, in notes afterwards. But yeah, and rather than just copying the text, those numbers that appear on the side of the randomized list. Those are very important to another part that we're going to be getting to. So what I usually do is that I actually screenshot the list that I want to go with, and then I bring it over to another site called image-to-text.info, which converts text on an image to actual text that you can copy and paste somewhere else. This is a very crucial part that factors into the next step. Anyways, once I have that numbered list, I tend to rearrange certain characters to my liking, and then once I have the finalized list of characters, I move that list over to my iPad. That way I can easily just look at it while recording the video. Once the finalized list of characters is completed, it's time to prepare the final images for the video. Now, the method I'm about to share is outdated. This is how I used to go about it. It was long and tedious, but I felt like sharing it anyway because why the heck not? Since the Rugrats video was arguably the last Guessing with Plankton video I'm doing this method with, I thought I'd share it just for the hell of it. So I've made a special image that serves as a reference point. This helps it easier to make all the images consistent, so like certain characters aren't like too low or too high. It's not really a big deal, and I think in some of the early Guessing with Plankton videos, I didn't even have it at all. I think it was the storybook characters video which made me realize I should probably start doing that. I don't really remember. Okay, so once I put the reference image into GIMP, I then load all of my character images into that image as well. And at this point, it's time to resize all of the character images so they're all exactly the same and on the same spot as well. It could be a little tiring, but it's not the hardest part of this whole process. Once all of the images are to the size that I want, I then get rid of the size reference image, and what I used to do is that I used to disable and enable the certain layers and save every single image individually, and when I save the image, I name them after the number that that character is on the list. That's why I have the list open on the side of the computer, and yes, this was a long, tedious process, and again, all of this is completely optional. I cannot stress this enough. You can go about it in a completely different manner. In fact, I want to share with you the new method that I'm going to start using for the Guessing with Plankton videos. It's still a little time consuming, but it's not as long. So I gather the images and, you know, make the list the same way I usually do. But once I make the finalized list, I rename all of the character images to the numbers that they are on the list first, before I import them into GIMP. There's a reason for this. Once all the images have been named to their specific numbers on the list, I then import them into GIMP and resize them like I used to do. Then once that's done, I go through each and every layer and set it so the size of the layer matches the full window of the canvas, if you will. And then after that, I set the background color to white and remove the alpha channel from each layer so they each have a white background. You don't have to do this if you plan on doing like specific backgrounds like some other people have done, like my friend ToonFan91. And then once all of the layers are specifically all set with their backgrounds intact, I then go to layer and then stack and select reverse layer order. You see, when I import all of these files, it goes in reverse. So like 1 is at the bottom and 50 is at the top. I want it so 1 is at the top and 50 is at the bottom. And the reason for that is how I extract this. So I go to export, and then I extract the whole thing as an aura file. And what this does is that it saves all of the layers as individual files into this little data file, if you will, which is the aura file. And to simply get them out, I rename the extension to a zip file, extract the data folder, and there you go. All of the layers are numbered. The numbers are different, of course, but it's still very much the same. And that's why reversing the layer order is very important. Otherwise, the last character you want is going to be the first one, or going to be named 000 instead of the first one. For anyone else who uses GIMP for image editing, I really hope that that helps you making these character images a little faster. I'd say the only long part is going to be naming all the files in advance, but that's just gonna happen when you're making a video like this. Now that we have the finalized images, it's time to actually record the video itself. Now, you might be wondering where the video actually takes place, or not. It might be pretty freaking obvious where it does. It takes place in my room, like the room you usually see in like every Plush Brains video. Yeah, no joke. What I do is that, to give off the illusion that it's a different location, I close all of the curtains so it's, like, completely dark in my room, and then I use my desk lamp, which I used in videos like Margin Charge, as, like, a spotlight. And, first and foremost, the first thing I always do is the victim's introduction, like Plankton welcoming them, explaining his intentions, and his intentions have to be different every time. I used to have it where it always centered around him and a doomsday device, and I sometimes do that, but it's important to, you know, change it up every once in a while. But at the end of the day, he wants to conquer the world, or take over the world, or something like that, obviously. I used to explain the rules in, like, a lot of the early videos, but I feel like after the first 5 videos, people get the idea, so I don't really explain the rules anymore. That's entirely up to you, though. I see people who still do that, so it's not a big deal. It's your own preference. And then, for the main video itself, I tend to do multiple takes of most of the characters, and then I go for the best one when I'm in editing, obviously. Or, if my arm gets shaky from holding the camera too long, because I'm also, like, kneeling against the desk, too, so, like, there you go. I might try to do multiple takes because I'm not confident enough, although I usually tend to notice that the shakiness is not really noticeable, so it's usually just in my head, but again, not a big deal. And then, when it comes to actually, like, you know, performing the characters, it's always important that the delivery is always what I try to do my best at. Like, the delivery of the victim's guesses and Plankton's reactions, I think, are very important, and it helps make the video funnier. Again, it's ultimately up to you on how you like to go about it. I know certain people are not comfortable with, like, you know, performing certain ways. Again, don't let this video be a tutorial. You make the video the way you want to make it. And, it's kind of funny, you might actually be wondering how I go about, you know, changing the images. Well, obviously, and this is part of the reason why I have it be like a full white image that fills up the whole screen. I open the first image, and then from there, I can just simply use the keys on my keyboard to switch between the characters. And then obviously I have the iPad with me at all times to view the list of characters. And yeah, it's just simple as that. Once the video is fully recorded, it is now time for the longest and most tedious part of the production, editing. It shouldn't come as a surprise. So, starting off, I have a project file prepared for the starts of the videos. I have like a starting point project file, which contains like the music and the sound effects for the victim's introduction, as well as the show's opening. And first and foremost, I edit the plush scenes. That's very important. And then I keep the best takes, that sort of thing. I also mark down something, and this is very important. Now, obviously, whenever they guess wrong, I play like this music sound, or this music from the SpongeBob SquigglePants movie game. And sometimes, however, there may be a specific sound associated to a character, just to make it funnier, I think, sometimes. So I'll mark down where specific sound effects are meant to go, and to avoid moving a whole bunch of files, I'll group all of, like, the stuff previous together. So if I have a long stretch of characters where their answers are accompanied with the usual wrong answer music, I'll group all of those together, and then once I get to a character which answer is associated with a specific sound effect, I stop, and then I move on, and that sort of thing. It's really hard to explain, so I'm really hoping the footage does it justice. That is, if I can find it. It's actually been a while since I recorded this. Like, I recorded this footage back in June, so, yeah, I told you this video was going to be unscripted. Once I've edited all the scenes that I want to keep, and I group everything together that isn't going to be interfered by specific sounds, I then go ahead and get those sounds and put them in the video. I'll either get them off of YouTube or the Sounds resource, or I'll even rip them from DVDs. Once I've put all those sound effects in, I start moving the groups that were already completed together, and then the main foundation is complete. The next step is to add all the character images one by one. It's basically what it sounds like. I go through and add the images in. The last character's image never gets included on account of the fact that, you know, the video kind of ends after that, so the answer doesn't actually show itself. The only reason why I go through with making a final image is because I need to use it in the video when recording it, so the character's looking at the screen and guessing, obviously. But the actual source image itself doesn't get used on its own. Finally, and this is probably my least favorite part of editing, going through each and every character and adding the text. The list comes in handy here, so I can actually copy and paste certain things. It's a little bit faster. I make sure to include the correct answers along with the victim's answers, just in case, like, it's a character that people don't know. I don't know, I think that's very important. And with that, the video is finished. At this point, I render the final product, I review it to make sure there's no mistakes, and if there are any mistakes, I'll go in and change them, and then it's off to YouTube it goes for everyone to enjoy. And yeah, that's the typical making of a Guessing with Plankton video. I hope you learned something here, and if you planned on making your own guessing series with their plush characters or whatnot, I really hope that you can learn from some of these steps. And again, don't be afraid to go about it a different way. There are tons of people out there who have done it their own ways. Some people don't actually use images for the answer screens. Why don't you go check them out? If you look up, like, Guessing with Plankton, you're bound to find, like, other, like, inspired series as well. So, get creative and do what's alright with you. Like, work to your own preferences. But, with this said, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Be sure you'll follow me on social media. I'll have links to those down in the description below. And thank you again for your never-ending support to Guessing with Plankton.